Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely evening. Today I'd like to discuss an article that a lot of you have been linking me to. It's on Apple and unionization. It says how Apple stores went from geek paradise to union frontline. I'm not going to read the entire article because that would probably bore you to tears. I'm going to read the elements that I found interesting and provide some commentary. Before we get started on this video, I'd like to welcome our sponsor, Clinton the Cat. Clinton the Cat has not been in my videos for the past 9 months as I've been traveling around the country, and traveling around the country with a cat is just... it's not what the cat would like to do. So the cat wasn't with me. But now that I have a permanent home here in Texas, I have the cat back on the chair. Something to understand: if you're one of the people that's been putting Clinton into sponsor block, if you decide to stop putting him into sponsor block on YouTube Vanced, I will not pursue you. However, if you continue to put Clinton the Cat into sponsor block on YouTube Vanced when he jumps up on the chair, as some of you have been doing, because sometimes he jumps off and jumps back on the chair, if you put him into sponsor block when he jumps in the chair, I will look for you, I will find you, and I will end you. That is not a threat. That is a promise from Clinton the Cat. I just want to make sure so that you can't say that I didn't warn you. I will find you. Now, on to the topic of today's video. It says here, workers say that whereas the focus of an Apple genius used to be to impress customers with a high level of service, they and other employees are now increasingly pressured to upsell. They're pushed to prioritize ownership opportunities, the company's euphemism for persuading people to buy new gadgets instead of repairing their old ones. This is a really interesting thing. So they're trying to rebrand buying a new one as an ownership opportunity. Back in the day, if a chip died on a $3,000 product that you owned, you could buy the $5 chip and have somebody like me replace it for you. What Apple does is they close off the supply chain so that we can't buy that $5 chip to fix a $3,000 device that you own. And when you go to them to try to fix the $3,000 device that you own, they try to get you to buy another one. Something that Kyle Wiens at iFixit has said for a long period of time is that if you can't fix it, then you don't own it. It's a really interesting way to put it. If you can't fix it, you don't own it. And I understand where he's coming from. What we talk about on this channel, we've talked about over the past 10 years, is how control is being taken away from the consumer in so many ways. Whether it's the inability to easily replace a battery, the inability to do a repair that you used to be able to do because of all these nonsensical restrictions, or operating systems that are constantly spying on you in ways that you can't turn off without literally hacking it with something like Graphene OS or Micro G. There's a lot of control that's being taken away from the consumer. And here, they are taking away your ability to do basic repairs that we used to be able to do, and then simultaneously repackaging that as an ownership opportunity. So it's not rampant consumerism that you're having your arm twisted into by the Genius Bar. It's an ownership opportunity. It's a very interesting way to put it. At a store in Towson, Maryland, for example, management put up a giant laminated photo of a tree in the break room and told Genius Bar workers to add a stick-on label every time they made a sale. The labels included the customer's name and the device's serial number so managers could verify them. The tree pushed people to want to upsell, says staffer Tyra Reeder. You have to focus on your numbers being perfect. While Apple has always used data to assess performance, employees say, which metrics it cares about the most and the tactics it uses to boost them have changed dramatically. Kevin Gallagher, who spent 7 years at the Towson store, says he's seen the shift happen. When I started with the company, it felt like the only number they worried about was your customer service score, he says, referring to survey results about consumer satisfaction. Today, they're looking to milk every cent out of every square foot. And that's something that you see clearly if you watch a piece like this, where a repair that I can do on camera properly for $75 to $150, or if that person is kind of cheap and okay with something that's probably going to work for a couple of years anyway, literally just bend back with a tweezer for free, they want $1,200 to $2,000 for. There are many, many, many instances in this channel of Apple wanting $400 to $2,000 for something that we were able to do for free to $300. Happens every single day. There's a reason that somebody that's a schmuck like me was able to make money in this business, and it's because the people that are offering these types of services appeared to be more interested in milking the last cent out of every square foot. And for the longest period of time, people would say, no, Apple doesn't do that. They don't do that at all. And then I would just look at them and say, in my basketball shorts and my Hanes undershirt, sitting in Herald Square Park when I was 19 years old, then how am I making money doing this? And people are finally starting to recognize that maybe, just maybe, the Apple Store doesn't have your best interest in heart. The money was decent. It's now $22 an hour in the US, minimum. Okay. I can't even finish this paragraph. The money was decent. It's now $22 an hour in the US. Workers say the jobs have become utterly draining and that compensation hasn't kept pace. The 22 hourly minimum, raised from 20 after a couple of stores announced union drives, beats the $15 an hour at Starbucks Corp, but represents about 3/5 of what it takes for an adult with one child in Towson's metro area to support a household. Okay. Now, I've had very, very unpopular videos on minimum wage before where I've gone over this. Again, if you are absolutely starting out, you have no skills whatsoever, you just get out of high school, it's probably going to be difficult for you to get a job where you can support a family. And usually the idea is you start a family after you've developed some skills, not while you're working a minimum wage retail job. That being said, as somebody who's had that as a very unpopular opinion on this channel in the past, I pay my front desk person more than this. This is utterly insane to me, because I was actually working under the assumption this entire time that the Apple Store paid better than I did, for obvious reasons. And I know what some people are going to say. Well, Louis, you have highly technical people. That's just the sales clerk at the Apple Store. You have people doing data recovery and component level board repair and digging 3 layers into the board of an iPhone to get somebody's pictures back. I'm not even talking about the people that do that. I'm talking about Kevin. And no offense to Kevin, but Kevin makes 20% more than this. And once he moves here, he'll be making over 40% more than this. But my employees that don't even use screwdrivers, soldering irons, or multimeters make 20% more than the Apple Store staff. And that is after they got a raise. My employees would have got a raise sooner if I wasn't as stupid as I was, moving to a store that cost 3 times as much money right before COVID. But they would have been. So a year or two ago, my front desk guy was making 30% more than the people working at the Apple Store. That absolutely blows my mind. We're proud to offer our teams exceptional benefits and strong compensation. You mean 30% less than what I pay my own employees? Really? You are the most valuable company on earth. You have retail stores that generate more money than Gucci or Prada, and you pay your employees at that store less money than I do. What the fuck? I genuinely thought that wasn't the case. I figured, okay, my store manager makes more than the person that's, talking to people at the Apple Store, fine. But I didn't think that even my front desk dude makes more than the Apple Store employee. That genuinely blows my mind. Wow. As a technician, my heart is to fix your shit. That's what I want to do, he says. But what I'm encouraged to say is, well, this is what your phone is worth for a trade-in. And again, this is what we talk about in many videos in this channel, many of the popular videos I have, where people are saying, Louis, you're making that up. That's not true. That's fake news, fake news, fake news. Again, the question that I've always had is, if we're making this all up, if the Apple Store is such a great option, then how do I have a dozen employees? And more importantly, how am I able to pay them more than Apple does? Maybe over the past 10 years, they have slid ever so slowly towards this model of trying to milk every last cent out of every last customer and encourage you to trade something in rather than get an economically viable repair. The recent shift comes with serious downsides, says retail pioneer Joe Pine, who co-wrote the much-cited 1999 book The Experience Economy. The mistake that so many companies make, as I think Apple has started to, is they commoditize themselves, he says. Pushing staff to work faster and upsell more is exactly the wrong thing to do, says Pine. Short-term, it can help your sales, but customers are going to get what's going on. Yes. And again, at some point, people will get it. There are many videos in this channel where I demonstrate, here's what Apple told the customer, let's open it up, let's figure out what's actually going on, let's live stream the repair, and let's have everybody guess what's going on. And it's gotten to the point where members of my audience watching who've never opened a MacBook themselves can guess what's wrong with it based on what they heard at the Apple Store. I'm glad that it's finally starting to make front page news at major organizations, that the Apple Store doesn't have your best interest at heart. When they raised concerns or asked for hazard pay, managers scoffed or said they were lucky they didn't get laid off, and they're referring to COVID there. Okay, I don't know. I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. When I hear hazard pay, I think this. I'm not thinking working at a retail store during COVID. I could kind of understand it if Apple is so cheap that they're literally paying their own employees less than I paid my own staff. And I told all of my employees throughout COVID, if you want to stay home, you can stay home. You will get your full salary. And only 2 of them took me up on this, and one of them only for a week. And then he came back, and everybody seemed completely fine with working through COVID. I didn't get any complaints from anybody over this, even though, again, they had the opportunity to stay home, and they're usually encouraged to bring any sort of complaints about what I'm telling them to do to me, and they often do if they have them. So I don't know that I don't really know how I feel about that particular point over there. There are many occasions upon which somebody has come into my office and explained why they think something that I'm doing is not right or not fair. And most of the time, if we're being honest, most of the time the employee has been correct, and we've had a conversation and worked it out. I have never had somebody knock on my door and say, I demand hazard pay for COVID to work at a retail store. Of all, like, I would rather somebody come into my office and say, I have learned this skill set. I provide you with this value. This value has continued to go up. Here's why I believe I have earned more money and why I should get more money. I'd probably respond very well to that. If somebody said, Louis, I sit down and work on MacBooks all day, I want hazard pay, even if they were worth it, that conversation would probably go very differently. Again, you can call me an asshole or whatever. When I think hazard pay, this is what pops into my head, not people selling MacBooks and iPhones. But tell me if you think I'm wrong in the comments down below. Here's the part that really gets me, is the race baiting. It says managers also cited the union's history of being racist in the 19th century as evidence that it couldn't be trusted. In one meeting, a black manager touched her skin and told employees, quote, they don't care about us. Nice. Race baiting to keep people from asking for wages that are better than a small business in Manhattan run by a dumbass that couldn't graduate college because he failed freshman chemistry. Nice job, Apple. Nice job. Oh, man. Nice, top quality race baiting there. Yes, I'm sure, again, I am not somebody that tends to be pro-union, but of all the arguments you could give as to why a union is not beneficial, you're going to point out that in the 1800s, they were biased against a certain race of people. So that must mean in the 2020s that banding together collectively to ask for higher wages is bad. Wow. What a fucking dumb argument. One talking point he heard from a manager during discussion about unionizing. If I have a problem with my wife, I don't go talk to my mistress. Okay. Firstly, if we're talking about unionizing, you're oh my God. Okay, you're not married to your boss. And you're not cheating on your boss if you talk with your coworkers. That's fucking stupid. That is manipulative. That is just insanely manipulative bullshit. Like, if any of my employees ever think that I'm married to them, I'm going to have them checked in for psychiatric evaluation because that means they lost their effing mind. You're not married to your employer, and you're not cheating on your employer with your coworkers. When you unionize, what you're doing is you're joining brothers and sisters in arms with your coworkers to ask for better conditions. That is collective bargaining. You are not cheating on your boss by speaking to your coworkers about what you think could be better at a company and then bringing those concerns to your boss. And if any boss ever brings up that type of ridiculous bullshit, quit or suggest that they be checked in for psychiatric evaluation because they lost their fucking mind. Next, for now, Apple employees are bracing for a holiday rush that tends to mean grueling extended hours and pressure to handle as many as 4 customers simultaneously. Okay, that I can't really sympathize there. Again, there are times at my store where you're literally sitting doing nothing for 3 hours. And then there are times where, everybody shows up at the same time. 16 people will walk in at the exact same time in all demand service. 3 people will walk up to the front, and the 3 people at the front will each be talking to 4 people. Like, sometimes that happens. That it is what it is. It's retail. It's going to be impossible to have the exact amount of staff there all the time. You're either going to have way too many people, in which case the store is not making money, or way far fewer than needed. So it's hard to balance that perfectly. Sometimes you're going to be sitting doing nothing, and sometimes you're going to be juggling. Here's where it gets weird, though. It says, one worker who spoke on condition of anonymity because his store is preparing to call a union vote says he started thinking differently about Apple a couple weeks before Christmas last year, when he was struggling through his shift with what was soon diagnosed as COVID. While talking to a customer, he found himself wobbling back and forth, bracing himself against a nearby table. After a customer left, a manager who'd been watching reprimanded him for not pitching AppleCare. That was the moment where I kind of realized, I'm working retail, he said. It's still the same BS. It's just crafted in a prettier package. Anybody that works here has likely heard Steve or myself. If we see anybody who's turning red, sweating, kind of wobbly, or just kind of we tell them to go home. We don't count sick days here. It's not like, well, legally you get 15 and you've used 13, so you better heal quick. Like, I've just never counted this stuff. If you don't feel good, go the fuck home. Come back when you feel better. Don't stay and do half-ass work that's going to lead to you taking longer to recover anyway, and customers being angry when you've done work while you're sick that's not up to snuff. Go home, get better, come back. I'm not saying like while you have a 102 fever and you're about to keel over, why didn't you fix that faster? We're more than happy to pick up the slack. Some of us will stay a little later. We'll call somebody else in if we need to, so that you can go home and get better. Everybody's going to get sick from time to time. It is what it is. Handling 4 customers at once, suck it up. That's working retail. That's just what it is. Whether you're making $10 an hour or $100 an hour, it's going to be a part of your job at some point in time. Asking people to work while they're noticeably sick and then bitching at them because they didn't upsell that customer. Listen, at some point, hopefully people will wake up to what I've been saying on this channel about the Apple Store for the past, 10 years now? Because here's the thing. I'm going to make a radical statement. Are you ready for it? This is not something that happened overnight. The only reason a business like mine was able to become as radically successful as it did with no initial investment is because the service that people got when they went to this store was that bad. The only reason people are willing to meet somebody in a park that's 19 years old with basketball shorts and a $5, probably cheaper Hanes undershirt to do their repair is because the experience they got at the store was horrible. It was incredibly expensive. It was commoditized in nature and, brainwashing people into prioritizing ownership opportunities, which means buying a new one and not owning your old one anymore, which is, again, it shouldn't be a mystery to people. When, the more comments I get from people that are pro Apple Store, that hate this channel, that think I'm an idiot, the more I would reflect that back on those individuals and say, okay, let's say all of that's true. Let's say I am as stupid as you say I am. Let's say I am as unprofessional and dumb and horrible as you say I am. How do you think I'm able to be successful in this industry? It's because my competition, the manufacturer, is that much worse. Something to think about. I do hope the employees there are able to have an impact in turning things around a little bit. Again, you don't have to pay the employees there, $80 an hour. But in my opinion, a company with the profit margins of Apple should be able to pay their employees at the very least what I'm paying Kevin. Like, come on. No offense to Kevin. He's a great guy, but you should be able to do better than that. No offense to myself even. You should be able to beat what I pay. It shouldn't be that difficult. And you should be able to give customers time, not try to milk them of every last cent out of every square foot. Not telling people, oh, why didn't you upsell that person AppleCare when they have a fever? They can do better. And I hope that they're able to push Apple towards actually caring about the consumer experience. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, hope you learned something. And now we might just get a word from Oreo the cat. Hi. I mean what I said about sponsor block, by the way. That applies to Oreo as well as Clinton. Telling you. I am telling you. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have a lot of money. What I do have are a very particular set of cats that I've acquired over a very long career in MacBook repair. Cats that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you delete them from sponsor block now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And Oreo will take out his claws and end you. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now. You're such a good kitty, Oreo. I can't believe people put you in sponsor block. I can't believe that. What kind of evil person would do that? You're such a good kitty. You're such a good boy. Was a good boy. Was a good boy. pet the Oreo. It's a good Oreo.